Welcome back to the Balance Boldly podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen, always excited to be in the space with you. Today, I have a beautiful, majestic, looking quite angelic human, if I must say so myself. I'm like, what kind of serum is she using? Because when I tell you, you could not have paid me to guess her age correctly, you could not. Miss Kosi Harris, she's an accomplished public relations specialist with 15 plus years experience. And when you see her face, you're going to be questioning me like, what, Naketa? She look like a baby. But she is not. She is in these streets helping amazing humans and organizations make sure that they get their message in front of their audience so they can not only create impact, but imprint. Kosi, welcome to the BBP. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Hello.
I'm good.
Thank you for the intro.
You're welcome. You know, I was teasing you in the green room before we got started. I was looking like, you said you just turned 40, and I'm looking at your face like, I would have honestly thought you were somewhere between 27 and 30 if someone held a knife to my neck, like for real. So good on you for genetics and whatever serums that you are using.
Absolutely, yeah. My mom just turned 80, and people say the same thing about her. Like, she looks 60 years old. Like, are you kidding me here? So grateful that I'll have that to look forward to when I turn 80.
I know. So Mama Kosi is balancing boldly, apparently, because she is not wearing the stress on her face. So I know you're working with a lot of organizations. You some that you can speak about openly, some that you have anonymity clauses with to protect your agreements. You've been in this space for over a decade doing amazing work. And I know you've worked not only in the service industry, but commodities, products, as well as hospitality, right?
Absolutely, yes. I actually worked with Time Warner Center. They call it the Deutsche Bank building now. It's just a big mall that's in Columbus Circle. The same group is Related Properties, and they own Hudson Yards.
Nice. So straight out of New York.
Exactly. So they have the Mondrian Hotel, a lot of the restaurants in there. So that was actually my first take on hospitality, and I didn't know that I would love it so much because I came from a fashion background. I thought since high school, that's when I first thought that I wanted to do PR, that I was just always going to do fashion PR. I got introduced to it through a job shadowing day from Miss Golston, who I still keep in touch with today, Harlem based and full of energy, full of life, Miss Golston. And she paired me up with a PR firm, and the account executive worked for CoverGirl, mentioned that she went to FIT, and rest is history. And I ended up working at a fashion company and just getting fashion internships here and there when I was at FIT. Then I didn't really love fashion that much anymore. 7 years into it, I was about to be 30, didn't really love it anymore. And I decided to quit, decided to take a job at an influencer marketing agency called Social Light that's still around today. They ended up merging with Nylon Magazine, and I ended up getting laid off because of that merger.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a few days before my 30th birthday, which was pretty wild. And I ended up answering an ad for a contract publicist needed for an accessories brand. And I ended up having accessories experience from promoting the fashion brand. Yeah. And I didn't know it was a PR agency that was looking for someone to help them promote a licensee for Reebok watches. That was also the agency that promoted Shops at Columbus Circle. So that's why I kind of got into just learning how to promote different types of PR. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And the agency took a chance on me, so to speak.
I appreciate that you use transferable skills is the framing that we would give that, because a lot of times we don't think about skills that you've garnered along the way that might have just been what you just had to do for that role. You weren't necessarily excited about it. You didn't want to make it a niche focus, but it became something in your toolbox, so to speak, that you could pull out and polish and really utilize for your next chapter, which little did you know was going to start again when you were hitting 30 years old, which is at a new lifestone marker for so many humans, but especially the women that are listening to this show that are in various level of transitions personally and professionally. And sometimes we don't realize how beautiful the brutal moment will be once we get past the pain and the awkwardness, the discomfort, or maybe even just the unsolicited surprise of it because we weren't planning for that kind of hiccup or that kind of change. So that makes a lot of sense that you would have done that. And it was one of the reasons, doing my little professional stalking of you, just a little professional stalking.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And highlight professional, y'all. Highlight professional. In doing it, I was looking at a lot of the great work that you've done, a lot of the face companies that you can put publicly, like on your website and other places, LinkedIn, where I know you speak and share your stories, a lot of storytelling that you do, a lot of connecting that you're doing as well, which is really important. But I was like, there's a magician here in Kosi. And so for this special series that I wanted to really like highlight just a couple of people, which we'll do occasionally throughout the next few years, is the magic behind the curtain. Because your job is to put your clients in the front, right? Your clients in front of the camera, your clients in front of, the different heralds and magazines and New York Times and CNN and all the other places, the Essence, all the places you've actually gotten your clients publicized in, video, visual, photography, multi-page spreads, radio interviews, international syndications, like all the things you've done. But many times no one knows the magician in that way. No. So I wanted to take a moment to honor you as a magician that's behind the curtain of some of these phenomenal people and organizations that are out here impacting as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'm curious, for you being the magician behind the curtain and now being more in front of the camera, not like this is your first time, but just being more in front, are you feeling the kind of urge or pull to do it because of the importance? And you're biased, obviously, because this is your industry, but because it's important to have your own personal brand? Or is this something that you felt was just important for you to do, to just make sure that your clients and your future clients can see what it looks like to put yourself out there in a very strategic and specific way?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Like, I think it is very important to highlight your personal brand. I realize that's very important. But a few years back, I think a lot of former clients were not happy when you used to highlight your personal brand. Like, it was like, well, what about me? Like, are you highlighting me? And there was like that thread. And I'll be transparent. I just don't promote those type of clients anymore. Like, if you're getting mad about me promoting myself and you're getting insecure about that, I don't, there's the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's the door. You shouldn't be insecure about that and get worried that I'm not going to be promoting you to the best of my abilities when I do, because you never know who's going to be watching this. This could be an editor, this could be a Forbes writer, or on LinkedIn that sees that and thinks about like a story and asks me what I'm working on and send me your client roster. So I learned that to not care.
Yeah.
And not care about putting myself out there and not care about and not worry about hiding. So I think it's a little bit of both. And I think it's good practice for me, to be honest, like public speaking. Sometimes that's not really my best forte.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm thinking about the scarcity mindset that those clients, those former clients, have had to be in to not see the benefit of having someone who is willing to show you how it's done, right? Like they say, walk your talk. Like, don't just tell me all the things I'm supposed to do and tell me how great you are, but you're literally showing me in your own way by, even if it's not at the level, like maybe you put your clients out 100% of the time, but you only do yours 30% or whatever the case is. But you're showing me that you can do it, and simultaneously, because we live in this space of A&D, and you're creating relationships. Because like you said, I'll follow the lead that you set with the example of Forbes. Maybe Forbes sees you at you, Kosi Harris, the publicist, and says, oh, wow, I loved her story or the share she just gave or the insight she just provided. And now you, the PR specialist, Kosi, not only has this relationship with Forbes because they loved your story, your insight, your ideas, but now you get to nurture that relationship. And there's a shortcut end for your clients who want to now get in front of Forbes. You're like, oh, actually, I know Tina, Tom, James, and Joan over there. Like, oh, that's an easy in for me versus maybe a company that you're not familiar with. So for former clients listening to this, who were former clients of Kosi Harris, just think about that for a moment. This isn't a judgment of you as an individual. For those of you listening, it's a reminder that sometimes we're not thinking big enough. Sometimes we're in our insecurity. We're anchored to that. Maybe the betrayal of people of yesterday who came before Kosi entered our lives. And we're just not allowing ourselves to see the big picture. So I hope that supports your former clients and your future clients coming in, that it's a good thing when you have someone walking their talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And for you now, because you said, I heard you, I did hear when you said, public speaking isn't my forte. So I'm, polishing that little arena. What else are you doing for yourself to just be more comfortable in your discomfort?
Going to more events, I think is very important. Like making sure I'm just going to those networking events. Like I used to dread them, I think, only because you have those people who also are very like clout chasing. Like they're not really publicists. Like this colleague that Tequila White, like love her. Like definitely just so inspirational, fellas, sister publicist. She has this funny meme with Suge Knight, like being all in the videos, not there for your clients. And it's true. Like, just like, are you like, there's a fine line when you're just trying to have this fame for yourself. And like, are you really providing for your clients? So I always try to have that fine line, but I do see now like the benefit of just like networking, going to those events, but like making sure like I'm going home and I'm like doing the work and making sure like I'm finding those stories for my clients. And, like, especially in this climate right now, not even political, just like the media climate right now, and seeing just how it's changed so much, even from like the past few months.
Yeah. What does that look like for those who aren't familiar with the media climate? What was it 3 to 4 months or 3 to 6 months ago versus now?
Layoffs, publications, going more into they're letting go of print and going more into online, or they're letting go online and they're going into video. Like Entertainment Tonight just called that out a few days ago. Like they're letting go of their online team and they're doing more video. So doing those like those type of pivots and figuring out like who's writing for what is interesting. And also convincing clients how beneficial like Substacks are, because a lot of writers are kind of going to those platforms. And
that you just literally brought us forward to what I was thinking of asking you. And for those of you who are brand new to the BBP, that's been running, this particular show has been running since 2016. It's always organic. So Kosi is not aware of any question that I'm going to ask her except for my signature questions, which you'll hear in a few minutes when we get the end, which is only 2. And that has been the same across time since I started podcasting in 2012. So if you're brand new to this and thinking that this was prepared questions, it was not. It's all from the spirit in which we are led in this moment. But when you mentioned Substack, you really triggered this other thing that I had been thinking, like, oh, when I finally talked to Kosi, because I know we've been matching schedules for a while, but when I talked to you, I really wanted to ask you about where you see things going. And you mentioning Substack, you're one of a few people recently who have been like, oh, like you have to be on Substack. You want to make sure that you're doing it. And there's questions around Substack versus Medium versus, creating like your own newsletter in Beehive, let's say, or the difference between that and the LinkedIn newsletters. When you are thinking of your future clients preparing themselves, readying themselves to work with you, because and I know you've heard it before, I'm not sure I'm ready to work with you, right? Like when you think like, how can a client, let's just make it simple and say that they are a service-based industry who might eventually productize something, like might add a product at some point. how do they ready themselves to be an ideal client for you in this age of media? Should they be on Substack and garnering some kind of audience or community, or should they be doing a newsletter and email subscribers? Like, is there a road to
I think
preparation for you?
email subscribers is a little bit more important to me, in my opinion. Making sure they have a consistent social media flow doesn't mean that they need 10K followers, just consistent social media. And also that they're prepared to like have a bi-weekly call, I think is like very important. Like that they're going to be able to like reply to emails. I think it's very, very important. Like you said, service-based, like, are they going to be able to send samples out in a timely manner? Are they going to be able to answer interview questions in a timely manner? Are they going to be able to do these things in a course of 4 to 5 months, because PR is a marathon, not a sprint? And are they going to be able to also understand that as well? Like they're not going to be getting like Forbes or Fast Company the first month. And also too, the fact that like, even when you do get that article might not come out for 3 to 4 months.
Right.
And also understand that me asking the writer every week is not going to be helpful too, because that could also turn off a writer too. And also understanding how writers work is going to be very important.
Yeah, your relationship management style is very important, and not everyone is aware of what the relationship management style it necessitates in this industry, so you don't become, for lack of a better phrase, I'm dating myself a little bit, but a bugaboo and start to annoy people in the market. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know a writer that actually pulled an article because a publicist was annoying them so much. Because the client, they're like, you need to manage your client's expectations.
Wow. Well, that's really interesting. So going back to the theme of this episode of this series with Magic Behind the Curtain, how do you help support making sure your newer clients that, let's assume that they've never worked with a PR agency before or a PR specialist, how do you help to manage their expectations?
Yeah. Well, kickoff calls are very important. Depending on the scope of the work, I do weekly or bi-weekly calls. I do explain that to them as well in regards to how these writers work. And sometimes I give that example. I do allow, like, look, I'll follow up with the writer once or twice. Sometimes the writer will give me an update, but I do give them the heads up that, like, if they say that the article is in the queue, it usually is in the queue. The most I could do is obviously put their name in, Google alerts, see if the article's out. And that's all we can really do is wait up to that point, because if it's not PR, then it's an advertisement. Then you need to pay for an advertisement if you want something fast.
That's a good.
And I usually do that analogy, even though it's very direct.
Yeah.
It's the most honest analogy that you could give for them to understand, like, you're paying for PR that's organic, or you need to pay, or you're paying for an advertisement that's fast.
No, that's a really good distinguishment, so people can understand that there's ways to get their press out there, and maybe they add, asks or requests for a mix of paid with organic, but they need to understand the difference. So I hear you saying really clearly, they also need to be prepared for what kind of speed that they're looking for. And even that still needs to have some expectations set with it. But if you're thinking you're going to come in and in 2 weeks, there's going to be some version of yes, you're a magician behind the curtain, but you're not made of magic, right? Like, you're not necessarily going to be able to force a company to take someone's article before they're ready to highlight it. Because I know from the other side of it, companies, organizations, especially magazines, online and other, they have themes that they're typically working with, and your information, your service, your product, your whatever it is that you're doing in the world needs to line up with their theme.
Yeah. And align with what, like, the writer is working on. Like, you can't, like, force a writer to, and there's one that I think writers hate that I see them always vent about. Like, there's, like, private groups that writers and publicists join to, like, get leads and stuff like that. They can't stand when publicists will email them to add something to a roundup, like gift guide roundup. And they will say that all the time. And they know that a lot of publicists do that because a client's asking them, like, oh, can you tell the Access Square to add it to their roundup, because the publicist is too afraid to like tell the client that they can't. And you have to be honest with your clients, even if they don't want to hear that. You can't be like a yes person either.
Well,
and then ruin your relationship with your writer. And again, it's one of those things, like if the client can't handle that, then that shouldn't be your client. Like I realized that the hard way. Like again, like there's the door. Like I realized that not all money is good money.
That's so true. And there's a readiness factor, right? Like there's the readiness of this could be a really good client who's just not ready right now.
Yeah.
Because their expectation maybe is based out of the reality of their circumstance. I'm trying to be very careful with my words and not say that it's desperation, because that's a different level of client, which if you're in a desperate space, you're probably not ready at all for a marathon versus a sprint. But if your circumstance requires you to have something promoted in front of, 100,000 people in the next 72 hours, then the PR route is probably not the route for that moment.
Yeah.
But maybe come back to us, after.
Yeah. And maybe that's an advertisement, like you pay like a newsletter or something and hope for the best. But even then, like, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right. It's a gamble. It's all a gamble. This was really helpful and supportive, I think, for all the people that are listening right now that have either considered PR careers, that are considering working with a PR specialist like yourself, or just hoping to be ready at some point with their business. And maybe they thought that they weren't ready because they didn't have like you said, 10,000 subscribers or 10,000 followers on, I don't know, whatever the hip platform is of the moment, but whatever that is. And you're saying, no, that's not the qualifier, but you do need to have some spaciousness on your calendar, or you can make spaciousness on your calendar to sit with your trusted advisor, your PR specialist, so that you can make sure that you're anchored in the reality of what this will look like over the next 5 to 6 months based on your overall goals. And if we want to speed that up, then you need to be prepared to pay to play with the mixed version of PR where you're paying for advertisements. So those are, I think, really good tidbits that you gave.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, I have to ask you my favorite scripted questions, my signature question.
All right, I'm ready.
How do you give yourself permission to pause?
I've been going back into journaling, but I do it in different ways. I have the 5-minute journal, so I do that in the morning. I make it a point to do it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, a good friend of mine, her name is Candy Washington. She has like this miracle manifestations journal. Mm-hmm. So I use that to script my day. I don't do it every day. So I do it often, a few times a week. And I feel as though like weirdly it helps me stay in control.
Yeah.
I'm almost like done with it. I'm actually going to buy another one. And my goal is to to have it for like the rest of the year. Like, and it's for 30 days.
Yeah.
So I've been loving doing that and feeling as though like I'm in control, like scripting out my day and exaggerating however it be. So those have been helping me a lot. And like, I don't know, like going out for walks, and I've been, obviously working out. Like, I have a trainer that I work with, every Thursday morning. And then of course, like doing my own workouts here and there. I think that type of stuff, is important as well. And, definitely, meditating, I think is very important. I try to do that in the afternoons. Not every day. I do want to, that's my goal, is to do it every day, but I've been doing that a few times a week.
Yeah, I love it. You're speaking my language, and I appreciate your honesty and your rawness with these are things that are staples and these are things that I'm playing with to create them as a practice, but not trying to come across as if you have already mastered all these layers, because you're growing and you're allowing yourself that opportunity to choose what really does feel like it should be a practice for you, what will stick, if I will, to have some stickiness, versus what is, I'm just going to try this for a little bit and see what happens, but I'm taking advantage of whatever goodness it can give me in the meantime. And if this sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it's okay, which I appreciate, because I think this is also the age of too much information. And I don't mean TMI information. I mean, because there's not enough people being honest and transparent in the first place. But I mean it from the perspective of there's information overload with you're supposed to have a morning routine that has 25 things in it and an evening routine that has 30 things in it. And if you're a master, you got to have another afternoon routine with another 13 things. And that's not really the case. It's whatever is creating the stickiness of positive outcomes for you is the thing that you should have.
Yeah. I think those are too intimidating. I think it makes you, for me, I think it makes you, like, sometimes I could be too much of a perfectionist. It makes you just not want to do it. So I'm kind of just like, let me just figure out just what's working for me. And I'm realizing I've been doing this thing probably since a little bit before my birthday, like the month of my birthday in May. And I realized I've just been sticking with it. So that's what it's been doing for me. And just like writing my goals down, repeating them, kind of like, you remember when Bart Simpson was a kid and he would like write in the opening Simpsons thing where he would like write down his punishment. So I've been like doing my goals similar that way.
But not
in my
as punishment.
Journal. Not as punishment, but like, you know, writing my goals similar that way. So I've been doing little things like that. That's been helping me. So I feel as though like, you have to kind of figure out what works for you. Like cooking and baking, right? It's a similar practice.
Oh, don't get me started with that. That's a whole that is a whole venture in my house with cooking and baking. It's a whole thing. And I completely agree with you. It's allowing yourself that opportunity to taste and try, but not feel stuck with something that doesn't feel like it's where you want to be sticky or what you want to stick to you. I really value that. How can people connect with you and learn more about your public relations services that you offer, the great work you're doing in the world, and maybe even get some of your tips and tricks from your insight that you offer?
Yes. So you could connect with me on Instagram, Kosi Harris PR. That's Kosi _Harris, HARIS _PR. I do have a Substack called PR Tips and Tea that I'm starting to update once again that will have PR tidbits. And you could find me on LinkedIn, Kosi Harris.
I love that. And then your website is kosiharris.com,
yes,
right?
And my website, kosiharris.com. Yes.
No, I love that. First of all, I appreciate her heart, y'all. She was giving you the give, like the give for free. And then was like, and when you're ready, when y'all ready, you got some room, you got some space, you ready, come over to kosiharris.com. I heard that. Thank you, Kosi.
Have to.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for carving out some extra overflow time for us today. I really appreciate it. We were good.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Balance Boldly listeners, thank you as always for sticking through, for hearing, for sitting in and making sure that you garnered all the gems that were just for you to chew on. I have two favors as usual. The first is to think of one person in your ecosystem who can benefit from listening to this episode. If you know anybody in your circle who was dealing with transitions and was questioning why was this brutal moment happening and couldn't see the beauty in transferring their skills, this episode is for them. If you're thinking of anyone who has a business, a specialty or organization, or works in an organization where they really need some help getting their message across, this episode is for you. So make sure you share with that one person or many. I'm only asking for one, but feel free to overflow in abundance with me all day long. The second thing I have to ask you is, as always, enjoy the balance of your day. But remember, do it boldly.